Dallas has just been on a tear. I believe we can attribute that to Jason Robertson. Also, Jake Ottinger, who's really stepped in.
Yeah, so we can compare a rookie QB to a toddler. Hayward's absence for this game will be significant, and I wouldn't be surprised if this game turns into a blowout as of late.
The Golden Knights just can't pull it. I really think the Avalanche are determined this year.
They made so many moves and grabbed so many guys that they have to win a championship or at least make the finals. They were on our championship and bust.
The same self, the only year he won an MVP was the year he cheated, which really should put something against that MVP. But
Yeah, and as a Cowboys fan, I have learned how dangerously good Aaron Rodgers has been with he can just thread a pass.
Hello, I am Ruby Ackerman, and you are listening to Outsider's Opinion with Kevin and Austin.
What's up, y'all? Welcome to our NFL Opinions of the Week. Everything is set, and I am Kevin, and I am joined by the man seated in this studio next to me, Austin.
Yeah, this was a crazy week. A lot of coaches either won themselves awards by what they did this weekend or got themselves fired. And I mean, that's what happens at the end of the years every year.
Yeah, a lot happened. The playoffs are set. I think the thing that stands out to me is the Eagles lost to the Giants. I know I was like, I think the Giants can win. I thought they were going to win Thanksgiving. But I think this kind of goes off from Thanksgiving because that's when they switch quarterbacks from Tommy
True.
DeVito to Tyrod Taylor.
True, but also there was a plethora of injuries to the Eagles. Not only did they not start DeAndre Swift, their starting running back, but also losing A.J. Brown. Jalen Hurts, after a while, didn't even play. I think they kind of knew that the Cowboys were going to take care of business and that this game didn't really matter all that much. So that's not the most significant loss to me.
Yeah, no, it's not. I still believe in them, but I'll leave the playoff talk for our future video this week. So be on the lookout for that. But it was just shocking, and I think they saw when the Cowboys were winning, they're like, yeah, we'll just take everyone out and we'll take this. Treat it as sort of a bye week. The other game was the Rams-Niners. I know they were both backups in, but the Rams still pulled it out. I caught the end of that, but I saw they went for the 2-point conversion.
Yes, and they got it, and they won, which means that they play the Lions instead of the Cowboys while the Packers get the Cowboys. A matchup we've heard many times, a historic matchup, but the Packers took care of business too, and in doing so, Jordan Love became the second leading passing touchdown leader in the league, only behind Dak. And there was a lot of hate for Jordan Love earlier in the year, but I feel like he's been disrespected. 32 touchdowns, only 11 picks. He's been very good. If you compare him to a guy like Josh Allen, he has more touchdowns, less picks, and a better passer rating. So while maybe he's not Josh Allen's level yet, I still think that he is a very good quarterback, and I'm very excited for what he does the rest of his career. I'm excited for next year. Again, this is a stat that I told you before, I believe, maybe not. The Packers have no third-year or later wide receivers. They're all first-year or second-year wide receivers, meaning they're all young. Christian Watson's not 100%. He may be back by the playoff game. I really hope he is. But if he's not, then that still hurts. But Jaden Reed, rookie. A lot of these guys are rookies or second-year guys. Romeo Doubs is second year. Same thing with Dobbs is second year. And then Christian Watson, second year. These are young receivers with a very young quarterback in his first year starting. And this can build. This can build into the future. And while they may not win in Dallas, I do think this has been a very successful year for not just Matt LaFleur, but this Packers team altogether.
Yeah, it's quite a turn of events. It looked a little rough there, and then they did pull it off, got the win, and made it to the playoffs. We'll talk more about that playoff matchup next. And I got 2 points to build off what you said. The two was like disrespect to Jordan Love. I think you could say the same thing about Dak. Dak had less than 10 interceptions. I read somewhere that's not an actual quote from him. He just said he was gonna take his interceptions down, but he led the league in passing touchdowns, which is pretty incredible that Dak and Jordan Love were the leaders in passing touchdowns. There were quarterbacks injured, but still, that's quite an accomplishment for both those quarterbacks.
Especially when you consider the fact that Patrick Mahomes is fully healthy, Josh Allen was fully healthy. Like those are very premier guys according to a lot of people, and they weren't even really all that close. Like Josh Allen ended the year I think at 29. That's still 3 away from Jordan Love. So it just hasn't been the season that those other two QBs have wanted, but it really has been for those that we did mention, like you said, Dak, and then obviously Jordan Love.
And now that you brought up, I wanted to bring up Josh Allen. You and I texted. I texted you after. I was like, "This is the most Josh Allen game ever." Josh Allen had 3 turnovers last night. Um, do you want to say what you said and texted me first, or?
He's just a tough watch. He was second in the NFL in passes intercepted this year with 18. That's a lot. And the 2 picks he threw were his fault completely and bad throws. And those are unexcusable, especially in a game that could get you to win the division. He also had a big fumble that was lost. I know he threw 2 touchdowns and there were some drops in there. He also made a very bad decision at the end of the first half, throwing that ball over the middle of the field that ended up being short and didn't result in a touchdown, and then they got nothing out of it. He's just a tough
Yes.
watch. And while he has all the talent in the world, he truly does, he gets in his own way in a way that can't really be explained.
Yes, I agree with you. Um, the second interception where I think he just kind of flicked it over and it was intercepted in the end zone when Gabe Davis fell. To me, that's like a video game interception. That's when he was rolling to the right and you're just throwing it deep just to see if you could make a big play. To me, that's a video game interception. I also like your point about him throwing not not into the end zone in that final play where they ran out of time. And to his credit, though, he did stay in bounds at the end. But and
But he
at the end,
didn't. He didn't.
well, yeah, in one, yeah, he did his best to stay in bounds.
But they reviewed it and he didn't stay in bounds.
Yeah,
But
for
but
one.
they couldn't challenge because of them being out of timeouts. So yeah, it's just the media perception around him has really been that he is great, and he is talent-wise great. But I judge what I see, and he throws his team out of games, and a great QB never does that.
Yes, that's a great way to put it, and that kind of goes into my larger point. Like he had 3 turnovers, he made some key throws, but to me, maybe now I'm looking at the 2020 team. That's when they went to the Kansas City and lost in the AFC Championship game, 38-24. That's his highest completion percentage when he was at 69.2. His most yards, 4,544, 37 touchdowns, and only 10 interceptions. The year before, he had 9 interceptions, but 20 touchdowns. And it seems like that was what I thought he could be. That was when I was like, oh my gosh, Josh Allen could be this incredible quarterback. He could be top of the league. But like you said last night and the following year since, 2021, 15 interceptions. 2022, 14 interceptions. 2023, 18 interceptions. He did have 36 touchdowns in 2021, 35 touchdowns, and 29 touchdowns. Completion percentage this year was 66.5. That's the second closest one. The other 2 years were 63. It just seems like that 2020 year was an outlier, not a sign of what things were to come.
Yeah, and a lot of people mentioned, oh, he had 15 rushing touchdowns this year, but his rushing yards were down in one less game played than last year, where he had 700 and let me check, 762 rushing yards last year. This year he only had 524 with 15 rushing touchdowns. Sure, last year he only had 7, but those are not long rushing touchdowns. Those are Jalen Hurts rushing touchdowns. They're not Lamar level rushing touchdowns where I'm like, he made the play. These are designed runs from inside the 5-yard line that, again, they matter, but a running back could have had those. it doesn't necessarily scream, oh, he's so good because he can score all these rushing touchdowns. I'm just not as impressed as other people with that because I know what it means. And if you look at passer rating, the top was Purdy and then Dak and then Kirk Cousins and then Lamar and then Tua. Those are the top 5 of players that played at least 8 or 7 games. Or I think you had to play in 8 games. Yeah, play in 8 games. And so basically half the season. Those are the top 5. And then you got Stroud if you want to put him in for Kirk Cousins. But Josh Allen's all the way down at 16th behind names like Baker Mayfield, Jordan Love, Derek Carr, Jake Browning. Like, these are significantly supposed to be worse quarterbacks. He has a worse passer rating than. And it's not even all that close. Again, CJ Stroud was at 100.8 and Josh Allen was at 92.2.
Yes, and the other thing is Josh Allen can be a good quarterback because, like you said, he has the talent. It's just his decision making, and to me, it's decision making is he's too aggressive, and I'm not sure they did win last night, but I'm just not sure if they're a team that can win the Super Bowl. I know you may not be a fan of this comp, but I like the comp of gunslinger to Brett Favre, and I was like, okay, what were Brett Favre's stats when they won the Super Bowl? Was in 1997, and like turnover wise, so he had 35 touchdowns, 3,867 yards, but he only had 16 interceptions. And he was, I believe that's the year he shared MVP with Barry Sanders, 97.
I think so.
Okay, the previous 2 years, it was his 3rd MVP in a row. The previous 2 years, he only had 13 interceptions. So, Josh Allen, to me, I think what he is now is, because this is when we can really start doing it, and I said this is a big year. To me, he's a guy that has incredible talent, but is turnover prone, and to me, I don't want that in my quarterback.
Yeah, and that's fair. And we can kind of move on to other stuff that happened in Week 18. The Bucks ended up beating the Panthers in a very ugly game, and they won their division, which with the Packers win eliminated the Vikings, Seahawks, and Saints. So all of them were out, even though the Saints and Seahawks both finished at 9-8. On the AFC side of things, the Steelers ended up making it because of the Jaguars loss. So if the Bills had won and the Jaguars had won, the Steelers would have been out. But the Jaguars lost to the Titans and ended up missing the playoffs. And I do have to wonder how this affects not just Trevor Lawrence's not just legacy, but how he improves as a player. But does this come down to a Doug Peterson problem? They were 8-3, Kevin, and the 1 seed in the AFC and finished 9-8.
Yeah, I think Doug Peterson is still the right coach. I think it's a sign of a young team to me because they talked about, or people were talking about, the defense. The defense at times struggled. You could say the same thing for the offense. Trevor Lawrence dealt with injuries. To me, I believe this team is young and they need one more year to learn from their mistakes. Because last year they did the opposite. NBC talked about they had a 3% chance of making the playoffs last year and made the playoffs. This year they had a 98% chance of making the playoffs and they lost 5 in a row.
Yeah, and it's just remarkable how they fell from grace. But I do have to kind of compare it to the Chargers and how the Chargers made it the 1 year, and there's been a lot of concerns about them being good but not good enough. This year that they missed, this was very Chargers 2 years ago when they could have tied and made the playoffs. The Jaguars were going against the Titans. You have to win that game. I don't care if Derrick Henry goes for 153 and 2 touchdowns or whatever he had. I know he had 153 or something like that. I know he had at least 1 touchdown. He may have had 2, but just bad. Just bad. You should. I don't really know how to explain it. Another big game was the Texans beating the Colts. Tyler Goodson obviously had that drop, but that's a bad pass from Gardner Minshew. I know you've probably seen it 100 times now.
Or I actually haven't seen it. I was away from my phone.
You haven't even seen the play.
I haven't
It's
seen
been
the
all
play.
over social media,
Oh, okay.
but
Yeah, I've
It was a
not.
4th and 1 play. They were down 6 with about a minute 7 left, something like that, minute 10. And it was a bad throw. They could have gotten it, the 4th and 1. I agree going for it, but at the same time, like, I agree playing with the play call. You just have to make a better pass than that. Goodson would have caught it if it was better. Goodson holds himself accountable, but the Texans do get into the playoffs. I do think that eliminates Shane Steichen from the Coach of the Year. I think it's really down to Kevin Stefanski and D'Amico Ryans. And at the moment, I'm still leaning Kevin Stefanski. I know they lost this past week and only have one more win than the Texans, but 4 different starting quarterbacks over the year, and so many injuries to Nick Chubb and other major players on that O-line. This has been remarkable. And it's really close. And if D'Amico Ryans or Kevin Stefanski wins it, I'm not going to be mad either way. But if I had to vote, it would be Kevin Stefanski because, again, they could have gone 12-5 if they actually tried against the Bengals and not sat everybody. And
I
this
agree
is
with you
with
there.
4 different QBs.
And one of
Or I
those
guess,
quarterbacks.
one second. Because they started Jeff Griswold, technically they had 5 different starting quarterbacks during the year.
Yeah. And one of those quarterbacks, the main quarterback, is Joe Flacco, who basically came off his couch. Huge credit to Joe Flacco, but also credit to the coach and Stefanski. But yeah, if it's D'Amico Ryans, I'm not going to be upset. I'm like, that's a great pick as well. I was talking about it with my mom. She's like, I'm D'Amico Ryans. I'm like, well, it's Kevin Stefanski, but I'm like, I'm not upset. I'm upset.
Well, here's something I would say. Kevin Stefanski is an offensive coach, and he lost 2 of his best O linemen, his best running back, and his best quarterback. He also lost Elijah Moore probably for the year, the second best wide receiver on the team. Amari Cooper's been out and in and out and in and out and in. And again, they could have won their division if they were in any other division, because they could have had 12 wins. So if they weren't in the Ravens division, they could have won any other division. They're in the best division in NFL history. Every team finished above 500. That's why I say that. It's the first time since 1935, Kevin, that every team in that division went 500 or above 500. That's the best division ever. And they could have gone 12-5 in that division with amazing wins. And again, a lot of credit. I don't know what to say except for he's my pick. Those are the only 2 candidates, though. If anyone else were to win it, I would be mad. Even if it is John Harbaugh, even if it is
Dan Campbell,
Kyle Shanahan, Dan Campbell, anyone else. It is a Kevin Stefanski or D'Amico Ryans question. They're both quote unquote right answers. I just think there's a more right answer of the 2.
Yes. It's the SAT choose the best possible answer. I think you and I both agree best possible answer is Kevin Stefanski. D'Amico Ryans, though, is a good answer. It's but yeah, I can understand why people are saying Dan Campbell and Kyle Shanahan. No, these are 2, they have great teams. And the thing where I go with Kevin Stefanski is the quarterback. Texans were good because they got CJ Stroud. That played a huge part of it. D'Amico Ryans, still heck of a job. Great choice if he's chosen as Coach of the Year. But yeah, that was shocking. Yeah, I was sad I missed the Texans game because I was like, oh. But yeah, I heard about the play. And just credit to Shane Steichen, though, for the year they had when their starting quarterback went down, Richardson. And I think you have to feel pretty good about it.
I do.
Even
I
though
feel really
the
good.
bad taste. Yeah. So that's all I really got. Seahawks won a nail biter, but still out of it. I'm very intrigued with how things go. I'll let you take this out and close it out.
Yeah, thank you guys for listening. What was the most surprising thing for Week 18 for you guys? How do you guys feel about Josh Allen, D'Amico Ryans, Kevin Stefanski, anyone else that we talked about? And thank you guys for listening again.